Voice of America Armenian Service. Interview with Susan Nunn, professor at George Mason University School of Conflict Analysis and Resolution. Dear Susan Allen, nice to meet you, and thank you for our interview. And first question that I would like to ask is about how do you see the resolution of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict from the perspective of conflict analysis and resolution discipline?
I think that it's important to look at from the conflict resolution perspective that for a conflict to be fully resolved takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of effort by many different people. It requires the leadership making choices that are specifically designed to resolve the conflict. It requires people in the region being willing to elect leaders with a mandate to resolve the conflict and to resolve it in a way that works for everyone. If one side becomes the total winner and the other side is entirely dissatisfied with a resolution, it's not a real resolution because, as we know, we can't change geography. The people we live next to, we will continue to live next to. And so we need to find a way to live next to each other, which means we need to come to a resolution that everyone can live with. Probably that's a resolution that is not for anybody exactly what they want, but as long as people can live with it, that's what we need to come to.
Is democracy part of the resolution?
I think that the conflict resolution requires an engagement of the full society in some way. And so one of the ways that can happen is through the democratic process. When the democratic process works as engagement, that's a great thing. There are other ways also. Community level dialogues can also be a way of engaging the whole society. A full resolution will require people being willing to support some difficult compromises and leaders being willing to take the brave step of making some difficult compromises.
The third question is about given the recent developments concerning Scotland. Do you see possibilities of conflict resolution based on this model in South Caucasus region?
The interesting thing about the referendum in Scotland is that it was many, many years in the making. There was no rush to an election. There has been a very careful thought over many years to preparing a process that everyone has agreed to the process. And that I don't see very quickly happening in the South Caucasus right now. I think that for Scotland, this is a process that people have agreed to. And I think that people will honor whatever outcome happens from the referendum in Scotland. It would take many, many, many years to build agreement on a process in the South Caucasus regions.
Thank you. And the next question is, what is the role of elites in the recent escalation, and do you see what they can do for de-escalation of the conflict?
I think it's more interesting to think about what can the elites do to de-escalate the conflict. I think that being a leader means taking some risks towards de-escalation, and sometimes you have to be very, very strong in order to make some compromises and to make some statements that are aimed at de-escalation. I think that too often there's a sense of needing to show oneself as very strong and by being critical of the other. And sometimes being strong is also to be somewhat self-critical, because no one has made zero mistakes. Everybody's made some mistakes in their lives. And being willing to look back over the history of a conflict that over hundreds of years, every side has had some involvement in the escalation of the conflict, if we look long enough in history. So I think that leaders need to be willing to acknowledge that their side is not blameless over the long history of the conflict, and look for ways to rebuild. Leaders can take brave steps. They can meet with each other directly.
Yes, really. And in the light of the conflict in Ukraine and related deepening of West-East tensions, what is your view on the relationships of nations in the South Caucasus, and considering that Georgia is moving towards European association while Armenia towards joining the custom union?
So the changing political landscape with of the changing alliances that are beginning to take shape in the South Caucasus it's a shift that's happening. What can't be changed is geography. People are still going to be neighbors. And so whatever the political alliances are, and whatever strength these different alliances bring, and whatever kind of walls they create between the countries, the geography will stay the same. We can't move the mountains, we can't move the rivers, we can't move where people live. So I think that in moving towards these alliances, the people making those decisions need to be aware, whatever decisions they make, they need to figure out how to live with their neighbors peacefully. I think I would just want to say, in terms of the last question, the South Caucasus is a beautiful place, and it's a really unique geographic area. And it's important that the people in the South Caucasus learn to live with each other, to safeguard that beautiful place.
Thank you very much. And I really
Thank you.
appreciate
It was great to talk with you. Thanks for coming. So we can talk about whatever.
Tigran Martirosyan, Voice of America Armenian Service.